I had spent 6 years at that company, keeping the entire operation running, even if my work went unnoticed. But when the promotion I'd been counting on was denied, I decided it was time to change the rules. I stopped fixing everyone's problems and allowed the system to collapse on its own. Let me start from the beginning. The sky outside was a dull shade of gray as I sat across from Elaine's pristine desk, watching her leaf through my promotion packet with the kind of bored detachment that only comes from years of practice. I had poured 6 years of weekends, family dinners, and countless late nights into that 20-page portfolio, yet she skimmed it for barely a moment before sliding it aside like it meant nothing. Adjusting her designer glasses, she gave me a polite smile. "I appreciate your effort," she said, "but after reviewing everything, I just don't think you're ready for senior management, maybe in another year or two." Adequate. That was the word she used, and it hit me like a stone in my chest. I wanted to shout that I'd held the department's highest client satisfaction ratings, that I had single-handedly saved the Brighton account when everyone else had written it off, that I hadn't had a real weekend off in 3 years. But instead, I smiled with the same rehearsed grace corporate America had drilled into me. "I understand. Thank you for the feedback." She barely nodded before glancing at her watch. "The Ashford proposal needs your attention today. They want additional metrics before signing." By the time I gathered my things, she was already typing, my crushed hopes forgotten. I walked past the corner office that should have had my name on its glass door, with its perfect city view, and made my way to the parking garage. Sitting in my car, I stared into the rearview mirror. The woman looking back wasn't broken or even angry, she was calculating. That day, I made 2 decisions that would change everything. I would cancel my vacation, and I would stop writing my daily operational guides. Nobody realized it yet, but the flawless system they depended on was about to fall apart without its invisible backbone, me. Before I continue, let me pause for a second. If you've ever felt undervalued or stuck in a career that eats your soul, you'll understand what I'm about to share. And if my story resonates, hit like and subscribe, because every week I share strategies that might just change how you approach your career. Anyway, back to that day. My name is Madison Clark, and up until that meeting, I was the most dependable employee at Vertex Solutions. Not the star, not the highest paid, but the one who quietly made everything run while others soaked up the praise. I've always been methodical, with a near-photographic memory for systems and processes, a skill I learned growing up with 4 younger siblings where solving problems before they blew up was survival. When I started at Vertex 6 years ago, the place was a disaster. The previous team lead had stormed out after a fight with management and left behind 0 documentation, not even passwords. Clients were threatening to walk, the department was on fire, and nobody knew what to do. For 3 months, I stayed late, reverse engineering workflows, decoding spreadsheets, and piecing together client histories. I built detailed manuals for every single process, color-coded and indexed so anyone could follow. Elaine, of course, never bothered to learn them. Why would she, when I kept everything flawless? "You're such a natural problem solver," she'd say during my reviews, right before handing me a raise that never reflected the hours I bled into the job. When Vertex landed Ashford Enterprises, a client worth millions a year, I had been the one nurturing that relationship, staying late for their overseas time zone, studying their industry so I could anticipate their needs. Elaine? She showed up to 3 meetings, mostly when there was credit to grab in front of the executives. Every morning, I was at my desk by 7:45 to draft briefing notes for her 9 o'clock meeting. Every evening, I sent comprehensive updates on active projects. In between, I kept the fires out before anyone smelled smoke. But the morning after she denied me that promotion, something inside me shifted. I walked in at exactly 9 o'clock, no earlier, no notes prepared. I only answered emails addressed directly to me and ignored the rest. When a supplier crisis hit, I sent it to the proper department instead of fixing it myself. By lunchtime, people were circling my desk with puzzled looks. "Madison, did you see the thread about the Brighton scheduling issue?" Mark from accounts asked. "Yes," I said casually, typing away. He hovered, waiting for me to jump in. "So, can you fix it like usual?" I finally looked up. That's actually procurement's responsibility. I forwarded it to Diane. His eyebrows shot up. But you always handle these things. I gave him a polite smile. I've been advised to focus on my actual role. I'm just trying to show I know my proper place here. By 5 p.m., I shut down my computer, packed my bag, and walked out, no staying late, no hauling work home. On the drive, I pulled up the booking app and canceled the mountain cabin I had reserved for my first real vacation in 3 years. Instead of escaping, I planned to sit back and watch the flawless system they all took for granted begin to unravel. That night, as my phone buzzed endlessly with work notifications, I set it aside and rolled cookie dough with my 9-year-old daughter, Sophie. We laughed at the lopsided shapes and smeared chocolate chips across the counter, and for the first time in months, I felt the pressure in my chest ease. "Mom, why are you home so early?" she asked, licking batter from a spoon. I hesitated, then smiled. "Because my time is valuable, honey, and I'd rather spend it with you." Her whole face lit up. "Can we do this tomorrow too?" she asked eagerly. "Absolutely," I promised, ignoring the phone vibrating furiously on the counter. By the next morning, the cracks were showing. Ashford Enterprises had demanded urgent changes to their rollout plan, changes that only I knew how to implement. Elaine tried to lead the response, but without my usual briefings, she was floundering. At 10:30, she stormed over to my desk, heels clicking. "Where are the process notes for Ashford's customizations?" she barked. "They're in the shared drive," I said evenly, under client implementations. "I mentioned it at last month's department meeting." She scowled. "There are hundreds of files there." "Which one?" I pulled up the folder on my monitor. The master file is titled Ashford Enterprise Integration Complete Process Documentation. It's 200 pages, tabbed by module. She stared at the screen with visible panic. "Can you just handle this? The client is waiting." I kept my smile polite. "I'd be happy to, but I have the quarterly compliance review this afternoon, and that's due to regulators today. I can get to Ashford first thing tomorrow." Her face tightened, but she said nothing and marched away. That evening, I silenced my work phone again and took Sophie to the park, sitting on a bench as her laughter rang out across the swings. For the first time in years, I felt fully present. When we got home, I finally glanced at my phone, 76 missed calls, voicemails ranging from confused to furious. Ashford was threatening to pull their contract, 3 systems had crashed, and the compliance report was still unfinished. All the solutions were in my guides, but of course, nobody had ever bothered to study them. I placed the phone face down and slept soundly. The next morning, I arrived at exactly 9 o'clock again. The atmosphere in the office had shifted into chaos, colleagues running between meeting rooms, Elaine waving her arms on a frantic video call, the regional director's assistant pacing near the elevators. I calmly organized my desk. "Where have you been?" Mark from accounts hissed, eyes wild. "Everything's falling apart. Elaine's been calling you nonstop." I looked at him calmly. "I left at 5:15. My hours are 9 to 5, as per my contract." He gaped. "But Ashford's about to walk. Nobody can figure out how to fix their demands." I leaned back slightly. "That process needs specialized handling. It's all documented in the guide I wrote last year." His face reddened. "Nobody can understand your guides without you explaining them." Before I could reply, Elaine's assistant appeared at my desk. "Madison. Emergency meeting. Conference room. Now." I took my notebook and strolled in, finding Elaine and the regional director, James Preston, grim-faced at the table with folders scattered everywhere. "Madison," James said with audible relief, "thank goodness. We need your help on the Ashford situation immediately." I set my notebook down. "Of course. How can I help?" Elaine's voice was clipped, her jaw tight. "Let's cut to it. What will it take for you to fix this?" "The promotion? Fine, it's yours." I tilted my head slightly. "That's generous, but I've been contacted by a competitor. They've offered me senior management with a substantial salary increase. Apparently, they think I'm qualified." The room went still. James's eyes widened. Elaine's narrowed dangerously. "You're leaving?" James asked. "When?" I shrugged lightly. "I haven't accepted yet." I'm considering my options. James leaned forward immediately. Name your price. Whatever they're offering, we'll match it. I smiled with polite calm. It's not just about the money, I told them. It's about recognition, respect, and the chance to actually grow. Elaine jumped in quickly, her voice tight. The Ashford client specifically asked for you by name. You can't walk out now. I leaned back slightly. Interesting. So did 4 other clients this past month. Then I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and slid it across the table. Here's my 2 weeks' notice. I'll honor the contract and assist with the transition. Elaine's hand twitched toward it, but James was quicker. He opened the folder, scanned the contents, then shut it firmly. This won't be necessary, he said, his tone final. Madison, I'd like a private word in my office. As I stood, Elaine stayed frozen in her chair, her knuckles white against the gleaming tabletop. Following James down the hallway, I felt eyes on me, curious colleagues sensing something had shifted. His office was sleek and understated, lined with awards and industry plaques, its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. He gestured for me to sit. I've been aware of your contributions for some time, he began, folding his hands, though apparently not closely enough. I kept quiet, waiting. Elaine's handling of this concerns me. I had no idea your promotion was denied. Why didn't you come directly to me? Chain of command, I replied simply. Elaine's my supervisor. Going over her head wouldn't have been appropriate. He nodded slowly. Admirable. Though in this case, perhaps misguided. Tell me, what do you really need to stay? I weighed my words. Recognition for my actual contributions. Fair compensation. And a role where I can implement the strategies I've developed instead of just executing someone else's half-formed ideas. He studied me carefully. I'll create a new position, Director of Operational Systems, reporting directly to me. Double your current salary, remote flexibility 3 days a week, and full authority over workflow design. It's yours if you want it. He looked surprised when I didn't jump at the offer. Is that not enough? It's generous, I admitted, but I need you to understand something. I'm not bluffing with another offer. A competitor has already made me one. James leaned back. Then what do they have that we don't? A clean slate, I answered. No history of being overlooked. No colleagues who treat me as support staff instead of leadership. He exhaled slowly. Fair point. But think carefully, you've built systems here that you know better than anyone. You've earned client trust that won't follow you overnight. Starting over means losing all of that. He was right, of course. 6 years of institutional knowledge is no small thing. But the sting of being undervalued ran deep. I'll need time to think, I said. Take the weekend, he replied. But I'll need an answer Monday morning. And Madison, please stabilize the Ashford account before making your decision. I nodded. I'll handle it today. By the time I returned to my desk, an email from James was already waiting, putting the offer in writing. The salary figure alone made me blink. It was more than double my current pay, and the description read like it had been tailored around my strengths. I was gathering materials for Ashford when Elaine appeared at my side, her expression carefully blank. We need to talk, she said softly. Not here. Lunch. I have the Ashford call at noon, I told her. Then my office at 2. I gave a curt nod and turned back to the task at hand. The Ashford team was clearly frustrated when I joined their call, but relief washed over them once I took the lead. Their requests were ambitious, customizations that normally took weeks, demanded within days. I laid out a phased approach, prioritizing what mattered most immediately while planning toward the bigger picture. This is exactly why we wanted to partner with your company, their director said. You understand our business needs, not just the technical side. After the call, I documented the solution step by step and sent it to the implementation team, making myself available for questions but deliberately stepping back from micromanaging. At exactly 2 o'clock, I knocked on Elaine's office door. She looked different, smaller somehow, with dark circles shadowing her eyes like she hadn't slept. Close the door, she said quietly, motioning me to sit. I understand James has offered you a new position. He did, I confirmed. She nodded slowly. I won't pretend to be happy about it, but I understand why he did it. You're valuable to the company. I waited, sensing there was more. I owe you an apology, she continued, the words seemingly difficult for her. I've relied on your competence without appropriately acknowledging it or rewarding it. May I ask you something? I said, genuinely curious. When you said I wasn't qualified for senior management, what specifically did you think I was lacking? Elaine shifted uncomfortably. You've always been more technical, the behind-the-scenes problem solver. Senior management requires visibility, presence, political savvy. In other words, I do the work while others take the spotlight. She had the grace to look embarrassed. That's oversimplifying. Is it? I asked. The Ashford contract, who presented the winning strategy to the executive team. I did, but based on the proposal I developed, the client retention initiative last quarter that saved 4 major accounts, who received the leadership award. That was a team effort. A team I led, coordinated, and created all materials for. I leaned forward slightly. I'm not lacking qualifications, Elaine. I've simply allowed others to stand on my shoulders while remaining invisible. The silence between us stretched uncomfortably. Are you taking James's offer? She finally asked. I haven't decided. If you stay, she said carefully, things will be different between us. Yes, I agreed. They will. The weekend gave me time to think clearly away from office politics. I took Sophie to the Science Museum on Saturday, something I'd been promising for months, but never found time for. On Sunday, I called my sister for advice. What does your gut tell you? She asked after I explained the situation. That I've outgrown the box they put me in, I replied. But I'm not sure if James's offer changes that or just makes the box more comfortable. Would you be reporting to Elaine in this new role? No, directly to James. And what happens to Elaine? It was a good question. James didn't say specifically, but reading between the lines, I think her position is being reconsidered. My sister was quiet for a moment. So your options are to take a fresh start elsewhere, or accept a promotion that might result in your former boss being demoted. Put that way, the choice felt different. I don't want revenge against Elaine, I said slowly. I just want recognition for my work. Are you sure about that? My sister challenged. Because from what you've told me, part of you would enjoy seeing her face the consequences of underestimating you. Her words hit uncomfortably close to home. Was that what I wanted? To see Elaine humbled? To watch her realize how much she depended on me while simultaneously dismissing my contributions? By Monday morning, I had made my decision. I arrived early 7:30 a.m., my old starting time, and went directly to James's office. His assistant wasn't at her desk yet, but his door was open. You're early, he noted, looking up from his computer. I wanted to give you my answer before the day gets busy, I explained, taking the seat across from him. And I'm accepting your offer with 2 conditions. His eyebrows rose slightly. I'm listening. First, I want to build my own team. Full hiring authority for 3 positions that I believe are essential. James nodded. Reasonable? And the second? Elaine remains in her current position. This clearly surprised him. After how she treated you. Why? Because replacing her doesn't solve the structural problems and how the department functions, and because I don't want my first leadership act to be perceived as revenge. He studied me with new interest. That's unexpected and politically astute. I've learned a few things watching from the sidelines, I replied. Very well. Elaine stays, though her department will now coordinate through your office for operational matters. Thank you. No, Madison, James said, extending his hand. Thank you for staying. The announcement will go out this morning. I suggest you prepare for quite a bit of reaction. He wasn't wrong. The company-wide email went out at 10 a.m., announcing my new position and outlining my expanded responsibilities. My inbox immediately flooded with congratulations, questions, and meeting requests. Mark stopped by my desk, looking somewhat sheepish. So, you'll be my boss now? Technically, yes, I confirmed. Is that going to be a problem? He shook his head quickly. No, it's great. You've always been the one who actually knows what's happening anyway. Throughout the day, colleagues who had barely acknowledged me previously suddenly found reasons to introduce themselves. Administrative assistants who had always been kind to me now smiled with a hint of conspiracy. They understood better than anyone how invisible work kept the company running. Elaine avoided me until late afternoon, when she appeared at my desk with a folder. "The quarterly strategy document," she said stiffly. "Since operational planning now falls under your purview, you'll need to present this at the executive meeting tomorrow." I accepted the folder from Elaine with a steady nod. "Thank you, I'll review it tonight," I said. She turned to leave, then hesitated at the door. "For what it's worth," she admitted quietly, "I didn't recommend against your promotion because I thought you weren't capable. I did it because I couldn't afford to lose you from my team." It was probably the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. "And that's the fundamental problem, isn't it?" I replied softly. "Good managers develop their people even when it means letting them grow beyond their team." She gave a short, sharp nod and walked away without another word. That evening, I stayed later than usual, not because I had to, but because I wanted to start reshaping my space for the role ahead. James stopped by on his way out. "Still here? I thought you'd be out celebrating." I smiled faintly. "I'll celebrate this weekend. Right now, I'm planning." He tilted his head. "Planning what?" I handed him a document I'd been refining. "This. A structure for the new department, including training programs to identify hidden talent inside the company and give people clear paths for growth." He flipped through the pages, raising his brows higher with each section. "You built all this today?" "No," I admitted with a small smile. "I've been working on it for 2 years. I just never had the authority to bring it to life." James shook his head, impressed. "Remind me never to underestimate you, Madison." I grinned. "That's the idea." 3 months later, the changes were already visible. My new team included a brilliant systems analyst who had been wasting away in IT support and a sharp process developer who had been buried as someone's assistant. Together, we restructured workflows across 4 departments, cutting overtime by 45% while boosting productivity numbers higher than they had ever been. Elaine and I found a new rhythm, not friends, but professionals who respected each other. Once relieved of the operational chaos she never really understood, she thrived in client-facing work. Employee satisfaction scores across the division climbed higher than anyone expected, and the Ashford contract grew into 2 additional service lines, with their CEO personally calling James to praise our operational turnaround. 6 months after the day I was denied that promotion, I left the office at 5:15 on a Friday, just like I always did now, no matter how heavy the workload. When I walked in the door at home, Sophie was at the kitchen table surrounded by math homework. "How was work, Mom?" she asked. I set my bag down and smiled. "Productive. We launched the new training program today. 26 employees will now have opportunities they never had before." She studied me thoughtfully. "Like you didn't get?" Her words struck deeper than she realized. "Yes," I said quietly, "exactly like that." She thought for a moment and then smiled. "That's a nice way to fix it. Instead of being mad, you made it better for other people." I couldn't help but smile back, realizing the truth in her observation. Sometimes the most powerful answer to being overlooked isn't anger, it's proving your worth so clearly that it can never be ignored again. That night, after Sophie was asleep, I sat reviewing slides for Monday's executive meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from James. "Board approved your promotion to VP. Effective next month. Unanimous vote." Elaine actually gave the strongest recommendation. "Congratulations." I set the phone down and let the feeling wash over me. It wasn't about revenge or winning against Elaine or even finally getting the corner office with my name on the glass. The real victory was that I had changed the system, created a path where others wouldn't have to be invisible to prove their value. The real victory was knowing that the quiet competence so many of us carry would no longer go unnoticed. If you've ever felt invisible at work, carrying more than your share without the recognition you deserve, I hope my story gives you courage. The same skills that make you indispensable are the ones that qualify you for leadership. Don't wait for others to see it. Demonstrate it so clearly that denying it becomes impossible. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more strategies on transforming your career. Remember, your worth isn't defined by who fails to see it. It's defined by your impact, whether acknowledged or not.